Hey everybody, welcome back to this 30 Days of Mindfulness series. And today I'm going to talk a little bit more about concentration in a meditation practice. So this word concentration can often have certain typical, images come to mind, right? Of like focusing really hard, tensing up, tightening the mind, furrowing the brow. And what I'm trying to offer is that concentration is actually a process of releasing the mind from its normal habits and patterns and coming back into this awareness, gentle awareness of the breath. So connecting to the breath and sustaining the awareness on the breath. And the sustaining process often has a metaphor for it, or connecting and sustaining has a metaphor, which is like, for me, the one I always use anyways is riding a skateboard, right? Placing the mind on the anchor, but it's not, and so that's the push of the skateboard, but you can't just push, there's also the coast involved in riding a skateboard. So the coast is like the sustaining of the breath. It's like riding along the breath. After we place the tension there, the mind begins to settle and rest on those sensations of the breath. So the way that I want to encourage this to be done is not through the usual mode of concentrating that I was mentioning, focusing, trying really hard to focus and concentrate onto sensations of the breath, but instead actually just becoming curious about nuances of the breath itself. Because I think often so much of the experience of breathing is left unexplored, and taking a little bit of a closer look in direct experience, there a lot of details can begin to open up. So part of this is noticing the way the body softens on the exhalation, right? Just noticing the way that each time the body's breathing, there's a softening that kind of ripples through the body. And then at the end of the exhalation, there's usually a moment before the breath picks back in. And this can kind of happen on its own if we are just watching it and just observing it. And then the exhalation brings a certain energy and vitality. And so beginning to explore the ways that you are directly experiencing the breath. This is a means of sustaining the attention, is to continually being curious. What is my direct experience of this? Because what this does is it begins to settle the mind, gives it something to focus on. And this way, even if the mind is thinking in the background, we continually give it the task of what to do. And the mind likes having a task. Just staying with these sensations of the breath. And it's actually not a problem if there's thoughts happening in the background. It's still possible to stay with the sensations, with different sensations in the body, with thinking happening in the background of the mind, and none of that is a problem. We're not trying to create some specific state of mind here, other than offering the mind an opportunity to just gently settle into that rhythm through sustaining with those sensations. And like I was kind of mentioning earlier, this process it's not a one of fixing the mind, forcing it onto the object, but of settling back into these sensations. And if anything, just allowing the breath to happen naturally on its own, without interference, just noticing the end of the exhalation, the slight release before the inhalation picks up back in. And the more that this practice is done, the more the coming back, placing and sustaining the mind and the attention, the more the salient feature that begins to emerge from this is actually this process, the experience of awareness itself. Doing this over and over again and sustaining the mind, the awareness on these sensations, it starts to become more and more of a familiar pattern. And in that process, with the mind kind of settled, begin to have a direct experience of what it feels like the direct experience of this awareness is. And it becomes a little less cloudy, a little more, comes to the fore. And it's that place of awareness where wisdom begins to develop in mindfulness, where the clear seeing of the ways we get caught can unfold. So developing concentration is a really important part of this process. So I think the best way to practice this is to practice. So again, we're gonna sit here briefly, and there's no need to do anything special other than taking an upright posture wherever you're sitting and allowing the body to just relax. This is always the balance of mindfulness, just having the body in an upright but relaxed position. And if it's comfortable, you can allow your eyes to close, or you can just rest them in front of you. And just right now, beginning to notice, what is your direct experience of this breath? This process which began from the moment you were born and continues all the way through until the end of our lives. It's the gentle rhythm of nature within us. And we're setting down the to-do mind or the having to be anyone in particular mind, and opening into this bare, simple awareness of the body breathing. And for this next minute or so, paying particular attention to the sensations of the out breath. Just noticing how the muscles of the chest and the belly soften and release on each out breath. Following each out breath through to the very end of each breath. Noticing the pause or the gap before the inhalation begins. Noticing if the mind strays, and it's not a problem. We just return, place the attention back to the breath, and sustain Now noticing the qualities, particularly of the inhalation, this gentle rhythm of the rise of the breath, bringing energy and life into the body, uplifting the body, and how it falls back down into the out breath. Concentration and meditation is a process of softening and calming the mind, the heart, and the body. And we let this gentle rhythm of the breathing be the guide. No way to breathe wrong. Just allowing the breath to be as it is and sustaining the mind for the full length of the in and the out breath. And in a few moments, I'm going to ring the bell. So just notice when the bell begins to sound, if it's falling on an inhalation or an exhalation. So thank you for taking the time to be still and to practice this sustaining of awareness. And this practice is something that we can use in meditation. You can also use a simple breath counting technique if that's supportive to you. Counting upwards from 1 to 10 on each exhalation, and then back down from 10 to 1. And repeating if this is helpful in stabilizing the mind. 1, 2, you get the idea, I think. And this can give the mind a little more something to do if the mind is feeling particularly busy at some point. And also, this practice is something that the more we do it in seated meditation, the more it becomes a practical thing to use outside of meditation. I'm a graduate student right now, and I'm typing and studying a lot. And this is something that I try to work with all the time, noticing the mind wandering off to the phone or whatever, lunch or whatever it is, constantly bringing it back. And the more we do this in meditation, the more we can do it in our work or whatever it is that we're doing in our lives, it becomes more natural to say, oh, there we are. Mind has gone off to this thing, and bringing it back and beginning to continue that sustaining, and it becomes easier to stay with whatever task we might be doing. So thanks again for sitting and taking the time to listen and practice, and I look forward to seeing you for the next session.